Have you ever poured your entire soul into something only to watch it crumble right before your eyes? This is a story about that feeling, but more importantly, it's about what happens next. Meet Maya, a painter whose heart beat in rhythm with the strokes of her brush. Her first ever art exhibition was just weeks away, and a single, grand canvas stood in her small studio. This wasn't just paint on fabric, it was her dream, her hope, her everything, captured in a vision she called Chasing the Dawn. She envisioned a sky just before sunrise, a symphony of soft lavenders, gentle pinks, and the first whisper of gold. It was a painting meant to feel like a deep, hopeful breath. With a steady hand and a hopeful heart, she began her work, unaware of the journey that awaited her. The initial days were pure magic. The canvas came alive under her touch, the colors blending just as she had imagined. The base layers were down, a soft twilight glow that promised the coming light. She felt a connection to the piece, a quiet conversation between her and the emerging dawn. But then it happened, one morning. As she moved the large canvas to catch the best light, her foot caught on a stray easel leg. The world seemed to slow down as she stumbled. Her hand flew out to steady herself, but instead of finding the wall, it found the canvas. A sickening rip echoed in the silent studio. A tear, jagged and brittle, right through the heart of her twilight sky. Panic seized her. It felt like a physical wound. All the hours, the love, the careful work shredded in an instant. Her dream had a scar. After the initial shock wore off, a surge of desperate determination took over. She wouldn't be defeated, she would fix it. She carefully patched the canvas from behind, a meticulous, nerve-wracking surgery on her own creation. It wasn't perfect, but it was stable. Now she had to hide the damage. Her new plan was to paint a cluster of storm clouds over the patch, transforming the wound into a part of the story. A challenge, yes, but maybe, just maybe, it could add depth. With renewed focus, she began mixing the colors for her storm clouds deep, dramatic indigos and moody grays. She was so engrossed, so desperate to make it work, that she didn't double-check her palette. She reached for what she thought was a dark blue but had accidentally picked up a potent, almost black pigment. She applied a bold stroke to the canvas, and her heart sank for the second time. It wasn't a moody storm cloud, it was a void. A black, lifeless blotch that absorbed all the light around it. It didn't look like a cloud, it looked like a mistake. A huge, ugly mistake that screamed its presence from the center of her painting. Tears of frustration welled in her eyes. How could she be so careless? First the tear, now this. The painting felt cursed. It was no longer chasing the dawn, it was a chronicle of her failures. She tried to blend it, to soften it, but the dark pigment was unforgiving, staining everything it touched. The lavender sky was now bruised and muddied. Despair began to creep in, cold and heavy. Days turned into a week of struggle. Maya worked tirelessly, trying to salvage the piece. She added layers of white, trying to reclaim the light the black blotch had stolen. She fought to bring back the gentle morning she had first envisioned. Finally, after hours of painstaking work, it seemed like she was winning. The sky was softer, the darkness was subdued, and a fragile sense of hope returned. Exhausted but relieved, she left the studio for a much-needed break, leaving the window open to help the thick layers of paint dry. While she was gone, a sudden gust of wind blew through the studio. It rattled the easel and sent a nearby jar of turpentine, which she used for cleaning brushes, tipping over. A slow, clear stream trickled down the stand and onto the canvas. When Maya returned, the sight stole her breath. The turpentine had dripped right through the wettest, most delicate part of her painting. The carefully blended colors were dissolving, smudging, and running down the canvas in ugly, chaotic streaks. The soft dawn she had fought so hard to restore was now a mess of smeared paint and chemical burns. That was it, the final blow. She collapsed onto a stool, the fight completely gone from her. This wasn't a series of setbacks anymore. It was a sign. a sign that she wasn't good enough, that she was a fraud, that her dream was a foolish fantasy. The exhibition was just a week away. There was no time to start over. There was no energy left to fight. She stared at the ruined canvas, at the tear, the black stain, the chemical streaks. It was a monument to her failure. She covered the painting with a white sheet, a final surrender. For 2 days, the studio remained dark and silent. The covered canvas stood like a ghost in the corner. Maya didn't paint. She barely moved. The joy she once found in her art was replaced by a hollow ache. Giving up felt both terrible and inevitable. This was the end of the road. On the 3rd day, she walked into the studio with a heavy heart, intending to throw the canvas away and cancel her spot in the exhibition. She stood before the covered painting, took a deep breath, and pulled off the sheet. But as the morning light hit the canvas, something stopped her. She didn't see just the mistakes. She saw something else. Her eyes traced the path of destruction. The patched tear, which she had tried to hide, now looked like a distant mountain range against the horizon, strong and resilient. The dark, black blotch she had loathed was no longer a void. The layers of white she had painted over it, combined with the turpentine smudges, had softened its edges, creating an incredible depth. It looked like the dark, mysterious heart of a nebula with stars and light beginning to break through from behind. And the turpentine streaks, they weren't ugly smears anymore. They were brilliant, celestial rays of light, bursting from that central darkness and streaking across the sky. They looked like a real dawn, not a gentle, perfect one, but a violent, beautiful, and triumphant one. A dawn that had fought through the darkest night. It wasn't the painting she had planned to create. It was so much more. It was the story of its own creation. A story of being torn, stained, and broken, yet still finding a way to let the light through. A new energy surged through Maya, an electrifying jolt of pure inspiration. She grabbed her brushes, not with desperation, but with purpose. She wasn't fixing mistakes anymore. She was embracing them. She leaned into the chaos. She accentuated the jagged line of the tear, defining the mountain range. She added flecks of gold and silver to the dark nebula, making it glitter with emerging galaxies. She followed the lines of the turpentine streaks, amplifying them with vibrant yellows and whites, turning them into blazing beams of light that seemed to set the entire sky on fire. She was no longer just a painter. She was a collaborator with chance, with disaster, with fate. Her studio, once a place of despair, was now filled with frantic, joyful energy. The painting was reborn. It was raw, powerful, and breathtakingly honest. She retitled it. It wasn't Chasing the Dawn anymore. It was the dawn that broke. The night of the exhibition arrived. Maya stood in a quiet corner of the gallery, her heart pounding. Her painting was there, hanging under a spotlight for the world to see. People gathered in front of it, their heads tilted, their expressions captivated. They didn't see a torn canvas, a wrong color, or a chemical spill. They saw a story. They saw a struggle and a victory. A woman approached Maya, her eyes still on the painting. "It's incredible," she whispered. "It feels so real. It's like you can feel the night breaking apart to let the sun through. It gives me hope." Maya smiled, a genuine, peaceful smile. In that moment, she understood. Her journey with this painting wasn't about creating a perfect image. It was about discovering that our scars, our struggles, and our so-called failures are not the end of our story. Sometimes, they are the very things that make our story worth telling. They are what make our light shine even brighter. Her most profound work wasn't born from perfection, but from the beautiful, messy, and triumphant art of falling apart and putting herself back together, stronger than before. Thank you for watching. Remember to embrace your own journey with all its beautiful imperfections. Follow for more stories that inspire.